You are now listening to the Project Kuwait. Where we stop at nothing to bring you the right facts on health, fitness, and psychology. Featuring some of the world's most experienced professionals. So you can learn, lift, and live. With your hosts, Meg, Dr. D, and Mehdi.
It started as a selfish pursuit of knowledge. I wanted to learn how to program for myself, how to get stronger, get jacked, all those things. It all comes down to what you want to do. Do you want to just go and have fun? By all means, this is the most fun you're going to have.
Go join a class.
Exactly. Go join a class. Go enjoy. You're doing it for fun. If you want to compete, it's a different story.
Here's the million-dollar question. Can powerlifting lead to weight loss?
Everything can lead to weight loss, including sitting on your butt and just eating less. So that's the thing. If you approach a sport thinking, oh, this sport is going to make me lose weight, I mean, anything that can make you lose weight. You can just find something that you're interested in and pursue it and just be in a calorie deficit. Simple.
All this and more in today's episode. Hey, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. Ya'atikum al-afiyah. Welcome to the show. I'm flipping it both ways, man. All right, it just clicked in my head. I got Ali Adwani, Haraka Training. Is it Haraka Training?
Yeah, Haraka Training System.
Haraka Training System. Ex-bro split bodybuilder, I'm assuming, and now turned powerlifter who can pull some pretty good numbers, man. I mean, your numbers are pretty legit, pretty sweet.
For Kuwait.
for Kuwait, but dude, in general, I mean, what's your deadlift sitting at right now?
It's like around 227 and a half. For your American listeners, that's 500 pounds.
500 pounds. That's a good deadlift, man.
At a 75 kg body weight.
So, you're 75 kg?
Yeah.
No shit.
Now I'm 80, but I usually compete at 75.
Oh, all right. That's still pretty good, dude. Dude, 500. Anyone pulling 500 pounds off the floor, I don't care what their body weight is, that's still a hell of a pull, hell of a lift. You know, I mean, 500 pounds is not easy.
Yeah, thanks for boosting my ego from the start. So now I can be more comfortable.
Dude, look, 10 years ago when I used to go online, see what the averages were for weightlifting or bodybuilding or whatever, like, oh, what should my deadlift be? Back then, it was like 380 pounds, 400 pounds. You didn't have the shit you see today.
Yeah.
Now to have an average deadlift, it has to be like 200 kg.
Yeah.
455 pounds, that's a lot of weight.
It is.
So anyways, a little bit about yourself, man. What's your background, dude?
I've originally been lifting for over 10 years. I did rowing as a teenager. Believe it or not, we actually have a rowing team in Kuwait. I think they still do. It's rowing and kayak, but they don't get any media lights shed on them. I used to do that for a few months in the year because my brother did it. So that's how I got into it. And that was my introduction into being an athlete or doing any form of physical activity. After that, I started lifting, I think second year of university. I come from a family of lifters. So all my brothers at some point went to the gym or still go to the gym. And one of my brother actually even competed in bodybuilding back in 2001. So I was always into that thing. When I grow up, I want to look jacked. I want to lift. I want to be strong. And I started lifting. We were talking over 10 years ago. There wasn't a lot of information back then. Even on the internet, I didn't even know how to research the right amount of information. I did a lot of stupid mistakes. I got injured a lot. I didn't know how to rehab myself when I got injured. Nobody was helping. Did a lot of trial and error myself and wasted a lot of time, to be honest. But eventually, I started knowing how to research, how to get the right information. And I found out who should I be listening to, because at the end of the day, you can find information, but it could be all wrong. So after I managed to find who should I listen to, progress started happening. And by 2015, I think, I wanted to make a shift to powerlifting. Not to be a powerlifter. My 2 cents were, okay, if I get stronger and go back to bodybuilding, I can build more muscles since I can lift more numbers when I'm training. That was the idea back then in my head. And I tried a program. It's very famous worldwide called Jim Wendler 531. It's a very good introduction program to powerlifting. I did it for 6 months, and I was amazed how simple and effective the programming is. And from that moment, I made it my passion to learn how to program for myself. It started as a selfish pursuit of knowledge. I wanted to learn how to program for myself, how to get stronger, get jacked, all those things. I've started lifting. I competed in powerlifting first time, I think 2015. And I thought I was pretty good because I was comparing myself to everybody around me in the gym, which was like a bodybuilding gym. And when I went there,
Which gym was it?
Oxygen.
Oxy.
Yeah, and when I went to the competition, I realized I have a lot of work to do. The funny thing is, like the guy that took the first place, I looked at his numbers. I was like, am I even gonna get close to his numbers? It's like there's a huge gap between me and the first place.
Where'd you go?
I think Spark hosted that competition.
Oh, this was in Kuwait.
Yeah, that
Oh,
was like 2015, before the powerlifting kicked in to the scene.
Okay, yeah.
And we got excited, like, okay, this is actually a powerlifting competition. They even brought legit judges from UAE. So props to Spark for doing that. And now, like a couple of years ago, when I looked at this guy's numbers, I already surpassed them without even realizing. So it's been a journey, you know?
How old are you right now?
I'm 31.
Oh, you haven't even hit your peak.
I would like to think so.
Yeah, no, you haven't hit your peak, dude. Once you get to like, and all the listeners are going to trash me for this, and I know they will, and I don't give a shit. When you hit 35, 36, 37, 38, and into your 40s, you develop a different kind of strength.
It's old man strength.
Yeah, dude. It's called man strength. I mean, come on. I don't know. When we were kids, me and my buddies would sit at 16. We're like, oh, I can't wait till we get man strength at 20, 21. Because you develop a different strength. And then from there, you develop something else at like 28 and then 34. And in my case, over the last year, like I never hit 200. No, I hit 210 when I was younger, but I was all jacked up on friggin' animal cuts and whatever else and all kinds of shit. But last year I hit 200 kg for 2, and I was like, oh, okay. You know, like this isn't bad. And it was a different kind of feel. It's a different strength right now that I have. I can tell. So you haven't even hit your peak. What do you foresee your future in powerlifting?
Well, that's the thing. Powerlifting to me is a hobby. It's not a career. Unfortunately, it's not one of those sports where you can get rich and make millions out of it.
It's like CrossFit. It's exactly like CrossFit.
But that's the thing. Like with CrossFit, at least there is a lot of competitions that's happening in Kuwait and outside of Kuwait where you can compete. And if you're decent, you can do something with it. Powerlifting just hit the scene a year ago in Kuwait anyway. And I was actually surprised and happy to see the growth that happened within the sport in Kuwait, especially among women. So powerlifting is a hobby for me to compete in, but I really would love to have it as a career in terms of coaching. So I have been coaching powerlifting for about 2 years now. Unfortunately, because powerlifting is not mainstream sport in Kuwait, you don't get to make a living doing that alone. So I'm doing that, and who knows, maybe within the next couple of years, it becomes as big, if not bigger, as CrossFit. I can actually do that full time.
Oh, dude, it will probably, honestly, in my opinion, كل شيء هبة بالكويت. Everything's gimmicky for a while in Kuwait. And right now, I see the powerlifting scene taking over. Like, I can see it. I see way more women deadlifting right now. You know, shameless thanks to my wife, she's a powerlifter, and she started it a year ago. And she didn't know anyone. She had no idea. I think it was me and a couple other people that were like, dude, you should do powerlifting. You know, it was like, you're pretty good at this. So I think personally, it's going to start picking up steam in the region more. And you already see it at Desert Barbell in the UAE and Saudia. And they're going to have a competition in June, I want to say, June 20th or something. They're going to have a comp. So it's picking up steam, and it's going to pick up steam here in Kuwait. Where do you see it? I see it taking over the CrossFit scene because it's easier to CrossFit. Anyone can go into powerlifting.
Exactly.
And I mean, you could probably talk about the benefits to going into powerlifting more than anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you want to compare it to a really tough sport like CrossFit, where you got gymnastics, you got Olympic weightlifting, these two alone will take you a lifetime to master anyway. So to just have 3 lifts is a lot easier, and you wouldn't have any prerequisites like awesome mobility or great strength. You can go in and deadlift an empty bar and compete in it. You know what I mean? So the prerequisites are a lot less than CrossFit, for example. So to have that is a great benefit. I mean, powerlifting is a great sport in terms of building strength and muscles in the right way, because you're not just building muscles like we call it fluff muscles. That
Bodybuilders build.
Yeah. I mean, not to bash any bodybuilders, but like there's two ways to build muscle. You can build muscles that are functional, that will actually do something. You know what I mean? Like look jack and actually be jack.
Totally just bashed the man. Totally just bashed
Or
him.
you can just do bicep curls all day and look jacked, but not be able to even walk up the stairs without getting out of breath, which is the case with some powerlifters as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, dude, come on. Powerlifters. I don't think I've met a powerlifter that cares about physique compared to a CrossFitter and a bodybuilder and everyone else. Powerlifters don't give a shit. That's what I've come to notice. And I think with more athletes, it's the performance that you guys have. So when you build that base, how does the basics of starting with an empty bar translate later on?
Okay, so at the end of the day, everyone has a starting point. Your starting point could be an empty bar, PVC pipe, or even 100 kg. It all depends on your level and where you start from. The beauty about powerlifting with smart programming is the progression you see. Even without smart programming, you'll see some results and you'll see improvements. But by the end of the day, you'll hit a wall and you'll need some sort of proper plan to keep making progress. So it's the journey itself of getting stronger, going beyond mental barriers is amazing. By the end of the day, I used to dream about deadlifting 4 plates, which is 180 kilos. That's like what I do on a deload now. So the progression is amazing. But one thing that people need to keep in mind is that it takes time. It's not a sport where you can go in and see amazing results in 2 months and keep seeing these results for the rest of your life. If that was the case, everybody would be deadlifting 500 kg.
That's true. And it's much like any sport. You have your honeymoon period, as I like to call it. You know, I went through it.
I'm going to steal that one.
No, go ahead, dude. Go right ahead. I had it in CrossFit, my first 6 months where PR this, PR that, everything's a PR. And then you just you're starting to hit that plateau. And for powerlifters, from what I understand, is once you hit that plateau, your next PR could be a half a kg.
Yeah, or 3 months after. And it's 2.5 kg.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
You could even not see any PRs for about a year in a lift because you're progressing in the other two. That's the thing. It's very hard in powerlifting to keep making progress in all three, squat, bench, and deadlift, especially with squat and deadlift, because they can take the recovery from each other. So you can't push everything hard at the same time.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Speaking of that, I think that's a great point. Wouldn't it carry over to the other lift? I mean, for me personally, whenever my coach says, oh, your squat goes up, your strength goes up, and I always argue, I say, no, my deadlift goes up, my strength goes up. I'm a deadlift guy. And I think I've seen it with myself that when my deadlift numbers go up, everything else that I push, pull, whatever it is, goes up with it. So the carryover isn't the same, right? Because of the CNS, I'm assuming, the central nervous system.
So when you're pulling anything off the floor, anything else you pull off the floor is going to have a carryover. So for example, if your deadlift goes up, your clean is going to go up. Your snatch is going to go up because that's how you start the lift anyway. But the movement pattern between deadlifts and squats is a little bit different with the sense that one of them is a knee extension movement or a hip extension movement, and the other one is the vice versa. So with deadlifts, the idea is to extend your hips. There is a little bit of quad involvement, but it's mainly glutes, hips, and back strength. With the squat, as a raw squatter, the most important aspect is your quad strength.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And when you talk about hip extension, you're not talking about back extension. You see a lot of people deadlift and they just hump the air or hump the bar, as I like to call it, and you just see them do this wicked arch. And it's dude, that's not what it's supposed to be. It's just supposed to be shoulders, hips, and knees all in line, right?
Exactly, yeah.
That's what the judges look for, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, you mean at the lockout?
At the lockout,
yeah. At the lockout. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you pull it. If you can lock it out with what you just described, you're going to get it as a lift, but does it make it optimal? Not really. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I'm not sure. Are you aware of Josh Bridges? You know who Josh Bridges is?
Yeah.
CrossFitter?
Yeah.
Anyways, he did a qualifier years ago where there were deadlifts, and he was getting shit for not locking out.
Okay.
And you could see his shoulders, hips, and knees were in line. Some of them were a little bit iffy. And everyone was like, no, he's not locking out. He's not locking out because he wasn't doing the full back extension that everyone's so used to doing. Now, what are the benefits for not doing that back extension? I mean, can't that lead to injury later on if you kind of arch your back all the way up so you get that crazy lockout that you see a lot of people doing at the gyms?
The thing with injuries is it's a little bit tricky. You will see people doing that and not get injured at all, and you'll see people having perfect form and actually get injured all the time. So when it comes to injury, as they say, correlation does not mean causation.
Yeah.
So by the end of the day, it could like lead to getting injured. But does it really mean that you're going to get injured? Maybe not. Same thing with rounded back deadlifts, for example. A lot of people have a rounded upper back. You can argue that it's going to get them injured, or people who are not powerlifters are going to say, oh, this guy is going to throw his back off. But at the end of the day, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get hurt. But if you're aware of how your body is moving, what you're actually doing, and you could actually make it work for you. But at the end of the day, when a beginner starts lifting, they always should seek perfect form, at least for a year or two. And after that, they can experiment with rounding their back or having their hips higher or whatever they want to do. You know what I mean? Sometimes different things work with different people. But when a beginner starts, they should always perfect their form. That's how they're going to protect themselves from getting injured.
So if you're a beginner, make sure you look in the mirror when you are doing a deadlift.
No,
hold on.
Okay.
And if you look, or a video, look at a video.
Okay, look at a video.
If you look like a dog taking a shit, then stop and find a trainer. All right. Same thing for squatting. If you look like a dog, because that's what I had a coach tell me before. He was like, you don't want to look like a dog taking a shit. That's with your back completely rounded, and it just looks really bad. Some rounding at the back is okay, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I've read recently, that if you have a little bit of rounding when you're deadlifting, it's okay, it's fine. But excessive rounding,
yes,
to your point on the beginners, that's when you kind of got to worry, right? So what about the average person that doesn't have a trainer?
The average person that doesn't have a trainer can do what I did and try to learn from checking YouTube videos on how to actually lift. And don't watch only one video. Watch like 30 videos until you find something that actually clicks in your head. Because every coach has a different cue. Every coach has a different way of explaining how to execute a lift. So if you don't know any better, you could be lifting in a non-optimal way for years and end up not seeing progress or getting yourself hurt. So I guess YouTube is a great tool. And just go to the top lifters and coaches, watch their videos on how to lift, and you should be fine.
Yeah. I mean, do you have any good resources for people? Like where did you kind of get started? I mean, for me, it was Athlete X with Jeff Cavalier.
Oh, that guy's amazing.
He's fucking awesome, right?
Yeah. He's good at everything he does. So.
Yeah. His shit is legit, too. It's not like fluffing out bullshit. It's legit sciencey shit that I enjoy listening to. And especially when it comes to the physical therapy side of things, that's where I think a lot of my rehab came into play with my forearm a few years ago. I had a brachialis issue, and it was Jeff, between him, a good physical therapist, I got over that in like 3 months. But what are some other good resources that the average person can look at? Or how would they sift between the bullshit and the legitimate stuff?
Okay. So when you want to take any advice from anyone on the internet, make sure you check out the credentials of the person you're listening to. Or at least go to someone who knows what they're talking about. Let's take you as an example. So if you want to learn how to do a snatch or a clean, would you rather go to watch a video from someone you don't know at all, or from a world champion in snatching and clean and jerk?
Personally?
Yeah.
I would want to check out the guy that taught the world champion. That's who I would look for. Because I would want to see the world champion. Or like you, for instance. I mean, I'll use you as an example. I'm going to flip the cards around. If I wanted to be a power lifter, yeah, I could look at your technique, but is your technique necessarily, would that translate to my technique?
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I would rather look at your coach or talk to your coach and be like, hey, what are you doing? Or look at what he has done with you. And then I can be like, okay, I can try some of that shit. That's what I would do personally. Because I don't look at the athletes necessarily, because some of them, their technique is built for their body, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But I would still look at legitimate people.
Yeah, and what I meant is like those athletes who actually give seminars, like Klukov or
Okay, yeah,
yeah.
that, yeah, no, definitely, yeah.
So, like for instance, if you want to listen to someone, some of them are athletes and coaches. I'll give you a few names: Bryce Lewis, for example, or
Okay.
Mike Deshear.
Yep.
These two guys were both very well achieved on the world level. Both of them are lifters and coaches at the same time. That's the thing with powerlifting. Most of the good coaches used to be good lifters. That's not a prerequisite, by the way. And you don't have to keep lifting and be strong for people to listen to you, which is pretty much bullshit, in my opinion.
That's true.
But at the same time, it's good to listen to someone who either coached world-class athletes or have actually done both. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. No, and that's true. I mean, to have a legitimate background is very important in the strength and training or athletic field, and I think going back to like weightlifting, not sure if you follow her, Michelle Breeze. She was an Olympic athlete for 14, 15 years. And once she left the Olympic being an athlete, she became a coach. And those are the people that I do look at. I mean, they're very important. Or the great athletes, like you said, that translate. Now, what about in the case of an athlete that isn't a power lifter, but has a very good, well-rounded strength and conditioning background, strongman background, has gone through the rigmarole of everything out there, right? And they're training someone to be a power lifter. How do you see that? Do you frown upon that, or?
Well, if this makes me angry, I'm a sore loser, like they say. By the end of the day, there is competition in the field. You can't be upset that a certain individual went to this coach instead of you, for example. That strength and conditioning coach could be better in things than a regular powerlifter. I'm a strength and conditioning coach myself, and I'm a powerlifter. I believe that this helps more than just being a powerlifter, because at the end of the day, a powerlifter or a powerlifting coach cannot have all the answers. A good coach is someone who's a problem solver. Sometimes, as a powerlifting coach, your athlete would come with a problem and you don't know how to solve it. That's okay, because you don't know everything. Sometimes the strength and conditioning coach can solve a problem when it comes to prehab, rehab and an injury, fixing mobility issues, or like working on a weakness that a pure powerlifter wouldn't see. Does that make sense? So maybe if this guy didn't compete in powerlifting, the strength and conditioning coach, he's not going to give this athlete the best advice when it comes to form, but maybe he'll be awesome at programming and the rehab and prehab things. So you have to look at what you want as an athlete. When you choose your coach, do you want someone who to do the programming and give you the optimal way to lift for your own body type? Or do you want someone who can fix the other things? So you have to look into yourself and realize what you actually need. And then this is when you decide, I want to work with this coach or that coach. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense, dude. Makes total sense. In fact, personally, and from my background, from being a baseball player, I would prefer someone with more of a general background in fitness and strength and conditioning that isn't just specialized in one thing. Because, like you said, they can bring different elements. Do you think it adds more creativity to the programming?
Of course. So when I told you I'm not ashamed of being a pro lifter before I became a power lifter, this added like tools to my toolbox when I actually work with someone. So it taught me how to build muscles, how to isolate weak muscles and work on them. Because I've done that, I know how does the body respond to training a muscle once a week versus 5 days a week or anywhere in between. The more exposure you have to different backgrounds, the more creative you are when you're building a program for your athlete. So if someone is only done powerlifting, nothing else, they're going to look at certain things or certain movements or certain accessory exercises and think, oh, we've never done this before, so it might be not a good idea. But turns out to be. So
yeah, no, I agree with you. You're 100% right. And I use this as an example because I saw this with a power lifter that I know. They were talking about their bench press being weak. And I was like, dude, well, if your bench press is weak, you need to work on your chest a little bit more. And he was like, yeah, my coach has me doing this. He has me doing that. I'm like, yeah, but you're not doing some of the smaller things that can contribute in a larger scale. Just a simple one is cable crossovers. Why are you not doing that? Okay, yeah, it gives you the shape too, but it also builds a different kind of strength that you might be lacking in that push. You know what I mean? Like there are certain things that I don't see CrossFit and powerlifting field that existed 20 years ago when it came to just natural strength building. And it comes from the bro split from the Arnold days of proven techniques. But why aren't they implementing it right now in powerlifting, in CrossFit? I mean, do you have any idea?
Yeah, so
to me, it's mind-boggling. Like, this shit has worked for 30 years. Fucking, when you do bench press, when you do flies, when you do cable crossovers, when you do a pullover, these things translate into your bench increasing. When my bench press hit a plateau, I ditched the bar for 6 months and I went to dumbbells. And you know what happened? PR'd by 15 kilos.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. PR'd by 50. But steadily, my bench press was going up with the dumbbells. And then I ditched the bar altogether and I just went dumbbells. Because every time I went back to the bar, it was like, all right, I can hit that number. But 3 years later, when I haven't touched the bar, no, it was the other way around. That came down because I haven't touched the bar. It was a different stimulus. But what do you think of that? I mean, what's your opinion?
I'm a personal trainer for those who don't know. So I did work with all sorts of athletes, from CrossFit to bodybuilding to people who just want to lose fat or gain muscles or whatever.
And where do you work out of, though? Like, where do you work out of? How do people get in touch with you?
They can get in touch on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm coaching now almost full time in a gym that recently opened called Noah.
Noah? Where's that?
It's in Kuwait City. It just opened like less than 10 days ago.
Oh, nice, man. Nice.
You're more than welcome to come and check it out.
All right, man. I'll come over there. I'll give you guys a little review. Do you have a CrossFit area?
It's a PT kind of studio.
Okay.
But we do have all the CrossFit equipment. We do have like the multi-purpose rogue bars and the pumper plates and
cool,
wall balls and all those things.
All right.
So you can get a full workout on.
All right, sweet, dude. I'll come down. Definitely.
You're more than welcome.
100%, man.
Yeah. So I did work with people from different fields, and I can see repetitive problems with certain sports. For example, CrossFit. A lot of people know how to kip when they do their pull-ups, but they can't get a strict pull-up, especially girls.
Yeah.
When I assess their body, they're using their traps. They don't know how to activate their scapula. They don't have the lat muscles developed. And they have like jacked traps for some reason. So when I give them simple isolation stuff like band pull-aparts with a strict form, not to do them as a fluff, but to do them like as a strengthening exercise, certain rowing movements like with dumbbells, strict rowing and all those things, after a couple of months, they have tremendous carryover to their pull-up game. Same thing with powerlifting, for example, because people don't realize if you go to the gym, you hold into the bar, and you start squatting or benching or deadlifting, it is a form of testing your strength. Yes, if you do it in a certain way in the program, you do build your strength, but a lot of people make the mistake of testing their strength every time they go to the gym instead of building their strength, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that shit. Every time I go to the gym, and I tell my wife this, like every time I walk into the gym, I want to add weight to the bar. Like that's my goal. I mean, the goal of, okay, I'm not doing this to be healthy anymore. My goal is always to add weight. You know what I mean? Like if I snatch the weight I was snatching the week before, okay, that's great. I'm happy. I'm very happy because it's a very complicated movement. But if I can get up 2.5 pounds, I'm going to put the 2.5 pounds on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't finish working until I fail the set, if that makes any sense. But that's just me. That's my stupid mentality. But it's got me going. It kept me going this far. So, but other people have different approaches, such as the one you're probably going to talk about.
Yeah. So for me, for instance, this is one of the aspects I didn't like about CrossFit. I tried CrossFit, by the way, for like 2-3 months, just so that I can have a perspective about it. And as a sport to a friend of mine who opened the gym called CrossFit Euphoria. So I did CrossFit. And there are a few things I liked and a few things I didn't like. One of the things that I didn't like was the testing aspect. You're expected to show up to the gym and be like, okay, let's find out your 3-rep max on a squat. Or let's find out your 1-rep max on a deadlift. And then you're supposed to go and do a workout after. That thing kind of like bugged me because there wasn't a structure to testing that 1-rep max. When I want someone to test their 1-rep max, we don't just show up to the gym and do it randomly. We build up to it. It could be a month, 2 months, 3 months plan. And then after that, We test because we want to see if what we did for the past few months was actually effective. Did it transfer? Did it carry over or not? Instead of just randomly showing up to the gym, maybe a great day and you lift and you're able to lift it, but maybe if you did it 2 days after, you wouldn't be able to. So it's kind of random. I don't like random. I like numbers. I like data. I like seeing the progression from 1 month to the next.
No, it makes sense, man. I mean, and like to what I was saying, like if I do go and I say I have a snatch and then I have a back squat,
Yeah.
my back squat numbers won't go up. And I'm always like, fuck, I'm having a bad back squatting day. You know, we all have bad days.
Yeah.
And then I have to play in my head. I have to say, stop, wait a minute. You just snatched like 185 pounds 3 times. No wonder why you don't have the power for the back squat. So now I've learned how to dial it down when I go to the movements like the back squat, just trying to gain strength in those movements. And it's interesting that you say that because a lot of people don't understand the testing part. And I've only understood it through Haya because she's a power lifter. So she has her testing, her testing week, as she calls it. And everyone has to be on their best behavior because she's going to test. And if we get her nervous or whatever, she kicks our asses in the house. But I mean, that I respect because you guys do build up a specific program for 8 weeks usually.
Yeah, it could be 4, 6, 8, or 12 weeks.
But
It depends on the level of the lifter. Yeah.
You guys do that, and I respect that a lot because it takes a lot of discipline to not want to throw weights on the bar constantly. You know what I mean? Like constantly want to overload the bar. Does that make any sense?
But at the end of the day, you're a CrossFitter. I bet you that the top CrossFitters, they don't test every time they walk into the gym. They have a proper strength and conditioning program where they work on their weaknesses and they don't work on them all together. They work on their conditioning in a phase. They work on their gymnastics and skills in a phase. They work on Olympic lifting in a phase. They work on, let's say, gaining pure strength in a phase, and then they compete. It all comes down to what you want to do. Do you want to just go and have fun? By all means, this is the most fun you're going to have.
Go join a class.
Exactly. Go join a class. Go enjoy. You're doing it for fun. If you want to compete, it's a different story. You know what I mean? So by the end of the day, you have to know what are your priorities. I just want to have fun, enjoy the community, maybe get a little bit stronger, get in shape, but not really compete. Then a CrossFit class is the most fun you'll have. I'll tell you that. Yeah, I'm a powerlifter, but I'll tell you
sure, dude.
It's really fun. And I've noticed even like a lot of the lifters who don't really want to compete start taking programming from coaches and doing their own programming. And I'd be like, okay, you're doing something that is really boring for 3 hours, 2 hours a day, and you don't want to compete. Why do you put yourself through this misery? I mean, it's not going to make you look awesome if looks is what you're after. Maybe it's going to make you a little bit stronger or fitter. But you don't want to compete, so why do you do this to yourself? Like, just join the class and enjoy it.
Yeah, you know I agree with you. Look, if I, like for me personally, I still compete. I love competing against people. I probably suck at CrossFit. I've only been doing it for a year. But like, I'm on a program. I have a coach. We have testing phases. Right now, it's all the mundane shit that you're talking about where like I'm working on ring rows, to build up certain strength parts. Fucking I hate it. Because it's like you spend 45 minutes doing the boring shit, the non-sexy shit that you're not going to put on Instagram. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's the shitty part. But if you are looking to have fun, like you jump into a class. Like
exactly.
You're 100% right on that, man. Now, we talked about phasing athletes through and going into the testing period. Now, say you get a novice lifter coming into you and says, all right, you know what? I want to start deadlifting. How would you assess their mechanics and what type of deadlift would you most likely prescribe to them? Or if someone said, I want a sumo deadlift, would you look and see, are you quad dominant or how would you?
Okay, so biomechanics play a big role in this. People have different lengths. Like, for example, some people will have longer legs, shorter torso, or vice versa. People have longer arms, shorter arms. So some people actually it wouldn't be optimal for them to sumo deadlift. Some of them will have a lot easier time sumo deadlifting. Some of them can't even deadlift altogether with having a straight back. And I actually saw a case like that. This guy is better off doing either block pulls or trap bar deadlifts because it's a little bit higher. So it depends. I will make an assessment. We'll try to make them deadlift the way they want to. And if they have certain limitations when it comes to the way they were born, then I would tell them straight out, okay, I can teach you how to do this, but your hip structure is not suitable for sumo deadlift. Or let's say your hip structure is okay with sumo deadlifting, but you have to work on your mobility for like, let's say 4 or 5 months to be in an optimal position to sumo deadlift. And so I will give them some sort of deadlifting. For example, if their hip mobility is the issue, I'll make them sumo deadlift out of blocks, because it's a lot easier to get into position so that they learn how to do the movement pattern. On the other hand, I'll probably give them also conventional deadlifts or Romanian deadlifts to build on their strength, and we'll work on their mobility on the side as well, so that within a couple of months they can actually deadlift off the floor and be in a great position for sumo.
All right. And what are the differences between the types of different deadlifts? I mean, I look at it as a baseball player. Everyone has a different batting stance. You have an open stance, a closed stance. You have a shoulders facing stance. Like, you have different batting stances. Now, when I look at deadlifters, I've seen extremely narrow. I've seen sumo to the point where it looks like the plates are going to drop on their feet. I've also seen like a midway through. And now, is this just based on your structure? I mean, what are the differences? Does a sumo, because I know sumo is, you're more quad dominant, right? Like,
Yeah,
you're using more
it
of your
does more
quads.
use more quads. Yeah.
But like, how do you figure it out? And what are the main differences between each one? Is it just like the wider you go, the more quads, the more narrow, the more hamstring?
No,
Like,
to me, I think it's all about your biomechanic. You always want to have, in a sumo stance, you always want to have your knees on top of your ankles. You don't want your knees outside of, like, on top of your toes, and you don't want your knees inside and not even on top of your ankles, where we call it stacking in powerlifting. You want your joints to be stacked on top of each other. This is your strongest position. So based on the length of their legs, for example, this is where they should know how wide or narrow they should go, plus their mobility levels. If you're a sumo deadlifter, you need to put a lot of work on your mobility, hip mobility work, so that you're in an optimal position when you are going to pull off the floor. Conventional require a lot less, obviously, and it's easier to do. So when it comes to the difference between the two, yes, sumo has more quads and it's shorter range of motion. But what people don't realize is it's a lot harder off the ground. If you get the bar off the ground, it's going to be easy to lock out. And it's the other way around when it comes to conventional. It's easier off the ground, but it's harder to lock out. This is at least for most people.
okay, all right, that's interesting. I mean, most people, yeah, but my wife, it's the other way around. Her lockout's the hard part.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. She could get it off the ground easy. It's the lockout where she had an issue with, but she spent a lot of time on that. She worked through it. All right. So, what are some of the accessory work, or what are some of the other movements, other prerequisite movements to the deadlift? For instance, would you have them do single-legged RDLs? I mean, what are some things that help with the deadlift?
So when I do someone's program, everything in the program has to be there for a purpose. If you're a coach, if you ask them, why am I doing this accessory move? Or why am I doing this? If they don't give you a proper answer and you don't think they know what the answer is, ditch them and look for another coach, honestly speaking. So you have to have everything in the program for a reason. And the only way I would prescribe a lift is to look on their weaknesses. Where do they usually miss a lift? Or where and how does it become hard? Based on that, this is how I know what accessories should I give them. For example, if your problem is your starting position, then it doesn't matter how many accessories I'm going to give you. The problem is with your starting position, strong. You have to fix it. And after that, we will see, where do you actually fail? Do you fail right off the ground? Do you fail around your knees? Do you fail at the lockout? Is it a grip issue? Do you usually can't hold on to the bar? So all these things play a role when it comes to prescribing accessory exercises. I'll give you an example. Most people, when they can't lift the bar off the ground and they're in a perfect position, I would give them deficit work and some sort of quad work. There's a lift I really like to prescribe to those individuals. It's a trap bar squat. Like, I force them to squat into a squatting position to lift the bar off the ground. This works a lot on their quads, and it's going to translate well into their conventional deadlift. If the problem is usually a lockout problem and the position was okay from the start, it's usually a hamstring and glutes issue. So I would give them a lot of RDLs, a lot of hip thrusts and single leg hip thrusts and all those things. Unilateral work is also important to balance out your strength. You don't want to have a dominant side. And this is the beauty about bodybuilding. When you said worked for 30 years for a reason, one of the reasons is balance and symmetry. One thing that bodybuilders look for is symmetry. The symmetry in size in between the upper body, the lower body, the right side to the left side, to the front, to the back. All those things will pay off when you do them as a powerlifter, because you don't want to have a stronger side. You're going to start hip shifting, you're going to start missing lifts, and as they say, you're just as strong as the chain is as strong as the weakest link, right? It all depends on their weaknesses.
Now, I love that you brought that point up, because it's been such a fucking hot topic that's been pissing me off. I've been seeing people do double sets with their weaker side. I've been seeing people do extra reps with their weaker side. I've been seeing people do all kinds of crazy shit. All right. Now, one principle I grew up with, and I grew up around with my uncles, when my left arm was weaker than my right, my uncle said, don't start with your strong side. Start with your weak side.
Exactly. Let it lead the workout.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, well, can I add reps to this side? He was like, no. He was like, because once you start adding reps, that side's going to get stronger than your other side. He was like, just lead with the weak side, because you're not going to be exhausted. You're not going to pre-exhaust your body, because you can do 12 reps with your left, 12 reps with your right. But when you do that second set with the unilateral training, so to speak, you're a little bit more fatigued. So you're not getting what you would get from the first set. Does that make any sense? Now, what's your perspective on that? I mean, just because I've seen so much crazy shit the last 6 months.
Yeah. So if the problem is just a stronger side, as humans, we always favor one side. That's just the nature. Otherwise, everybody would be able to write with their both hands. And for soccer players, they can kick with both legs equally. You know what I mean? But as humans, we always favor sides. If you have a side that is a little bit stronger than the other, start with the weak side. Let it lead the workout. Let's say your right quad is the weak link. You'll do single leg work, let's say Bulgarian split squats. Let's say you do it with a 10 kg dumbbell and you do 10 reps. Obviously, on the other leg, you can do 12 kg or you can do 15 reps, but you don't do that. Let the weak side lead the workout. Make it work, see what you can do on the weak side, and just match it on the other side. This is how you're going to bring in the strength gap in between the two sides. I don't usually prescribe extra sets or extra reps, but sometimes it is actually necessary. So I have a lifter. She has a lot of body issues. There's genetic stuff. And her trap, one side is a lot smaller than the other side. And when she's benching, you can see that the bar it's not even when she's locking out. Because her body is when you're bench pressing, you're your trap is your base. Trap, your scapula, your rear delt. So if one side is a lot smaller than the other, the bar is not even going to be equal from both sides. So this is when I prescribe extra sets. Let's say I give them, a dumbbell shrug. I'll tell her to go do a shrug on one side for 3 sets, on the other side for 4 sets. Just so that we can kind of catch up, you know what I mean? Because the gap is huge. That's the thing.
No, that makes sense. I mean, that definitely does make sense. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying any of this stuff is wrong.
It's not something you should give to everyone. It's just should be only for special cases.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Now, what about injuries? I mean, what are some of the most common injuries that you've seen lately in general from powerlifting, from novice lifters?
Novice lifters?
So the new person that's I'm going into powerlifting, and they walk into the gym like a badass, and they're like, all right, I'm going to throw my max weight on the bar and whatever. Or just someone I'm new to powerlifting, and then they get hurt. What are some of the most common reasons for that you've seen lately?
Bad form and doing too much too quickly. So again, to the topic of testing versus building, if you go to the gym and try to max out every time, you're going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt anyway if you compete. Even with perfect form, perfect programming, it's doomed to happen. It happened to me, it happens to everyone. But as a novice lifter, you have to take things easy. Realize that you can actually make progress with a lot less than what you want to do. So if you can go to the gym and build strength doing 3 sets of 5 once a week, why would you go and do 5 sets of 5 3 times a week? It doesn't make sense, because your recovery capacity is limited. You didn't build your work capacity. Your body didn't adapt to lifting. And think about it this way. If you start too strong too soon from the get-go, if you plateau, where are you going to go? Because at the end of the day, the difference between a novice and an advanced lifter is the volume that they need to get in to actually keep making progress. So a novice lifter will get away with building strength from deadlifting once or twice a week for 3 sets of 5 or 8 or whatever. And the advanced lifter may have to do 8 sets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just perfect your form, be smart about your programming, and just realize that you're going to get stronger no matter what. Even if you just walk into the gym, look at the weights and leave, you're going to get stronger as a novice lifter.
True. That's true.
You know what I mean?
Very true.
So don't get too excited, and just make sure you spend that time on working on your technique. And get a coach. It's not really that expensive.
I know, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, even if you don't want to get like online programming or coaching, just seek a coach, get a session or two with them, let them work on your technique. And this is going to be a great start. Like, why would you want to deadlift for 6 months trying to figure out how to perfect your form where you can actually make it perfect or very close to perfect in one session, 1 hour session? It's going to cost you 20 KD. If you get hurt, it's going to cost you like a lot of money to go and rehab and do all that stuff. And maybe it's not even going to be effective, because that's another topic we can talk about. Rehab in Kuwait.
I know, dude, right? That's definitely a topic I'll bring you back up for. Because it seems like it's the new Hebba right now. Everyone in Kuwait now has a coach, a physiotherapist. Dude, we have so much disposable income over here, we don't know what to do with it. All right? Like, legitimately. I got my friends back in the States. They're like, dude, you have a coach? He's like, that shit's expensive. Like, they don't do it. They'll buy the cookie cutter program and go from there. But again, it goes back to how much do you value your health and fitness and well-being in comparison to the rest of the things in your life. Speaking of that, here's the $1 million question. Can powerlifting lead to weight loss?
Everything can lead to weight loss, including sitting on your butt and just eating less. So that's the thing. If you approach a sport thinking, oh, this sport is going to make me lose weight, I mean, anything that can make you lose weight. You can just find something that you're interested in and pursue it, and just be in a calorie deficit. It's simple. So if you're not into lifting and you want to lose weight, don't think, oh, I have to do powerlifting, or I have to do CrossFit, or I have to do boxing, whatever, to lose weight. If you want to lose weight, find something that you like to keep you moving. Could be dancing, for girls, for example, or guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Could be running, could be triathlon as like an extreme hard sport. And could be like just playing football with your friends. You know what I mean? Just find something that keeps you active, be in a calorie deficit, and you're going to lose weight. But with that said, there is benefits to resistance training. Those benefits are a lot, especially for people who wants to be healthy and remain healthy. So to name a few, and powerlifting is obviously a form of resistance training. Going to have stronger bones, stronger muscles. Building muscles is actually going to make you lose fat while you're just sitting down, because when you build muscle tissues in your body is just going to use energy to keep those muscles alive. So sitting down, if you, let's say 40 kg of muscles versus 50 kg of muscles, you're going to burn a lot more calories just sitting down with the 50 kg muscle body weight. So if you want to have an optimal way to lose weight, maybe powerlifting is the way, maybe bodybuilding, maybe some form of resistance training. And it doesn't have to be every day. You can just do it 3 times a week, to be honest.
Yep, 100%, man.
And just get your steps on. Do your NEAT.
I know, right, dude? I know.
Are you familiar with the NEAT principle?
Non-exercise thermogenesis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's really important. And I didn't realize how important it is until I got myself like a smartwatch.
Yeah.
When I look at the end of the day I found that like I burn, let's say, anywhere from 400 to 500, maybe 600 calories. We don't burn a lot as powerlifters. We sit and
Yeah,
chill.
you guys. Yeah,
But-
dude,
but
you
we-
guys
we-
sit for like 5 minutes. All right, so cut the shit. All right, I give shit to Hay all the time. Like, you sit down for like 5-10 minutes. How is that working out? You know, I'm busting my balls in a wad for 18
But
minutes.
that shouldn't be the case always, by the way.
Yeah.
Like this should be just leading to a competition. For example, I'm not training for any competition now, and I barely sit. I just superset everything because I don't want to spend 3 hours in the gym now.
I don't blame you. Yeah.
I want to finish in an hour, hour and a half maximum. So I would superset everything. I'm burning a lot more than I used to. But when I look at the end of the day, because I'm a personal trainer, I work 6, 7, 8 hours a day, and I'm on my feet most of the time. I can achieve 10,000 steps easily.
Oh, easily, dude.
Without trying.
Yeah.
So when I look at the end of the day, the thing that contributed most to burning calories was actually walking around. It wasn't the workout that I had. So just be smart about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely, man. Thanks, dude. Thanks for coming on the show,
You're
and
welcome,
we're
man.
definitely gonna have you back.
Thank you.
I mean,
Thanks for having me.
That's 100%, man. Like I'm dragging you back here. We'll talk about something else in a little bit more depth. We'll hit on some supplements and steroids in Kuwait. We'll do something fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
But thanks, dude. Really appreciate having you on, and
Thank you very much for having me.
you know, hopefully bring you back, and you know, we'll get to do this again, man.
Inshallah.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. You can also find us on Instagram at The Project Kuwait. Thank you, and join us next time.